Yo, what's good, family? This is Corey, your friendly neighborhood massage technician, bringing you life, love, and liberation as always. And this is the Black Male Sexual Health course where I'll be bringing you my ideas and thoughts for this upcoming discussion session that we'll be having on Thursday, October 15th from 2 to 3 on Zoom, right? So, thus far, if I can give me a second to pull up my screen so y'all can see my PowerPoint that I have for y'all today. We are working through our course. This is 7 course discussions that we're having on Black male sexual health, the trauma, toxicity, and love of Black male sexual experiences. And thus far, we have worked on 2 of our day discussions. And now we are moving on to discussion number 3, right? Which is, where did you learn that from, right? That kid tearing that mango up, man. You know what I mean? I want some of that too. You know what I mean? Like on a real thought though, you are what you eat. So, take that into consideration when you're thinking about what's going on today with this class. Yes. So pushing forward. So, if you would like to get in on the conversation that we'll be having on Zoom, you can shoot me an email at coreyjh.cmt@gmail.com. To say that again, spell it out for you is coreyjh.cmt@gmail.com. And send me your preferred name, preferred pronouns, where you're from, why do you want to join the group, and what do you hope to learn and gain from being a part of the discussion? And from there, I can send you the Zoom link. I'm not adding the Zoom link to any of my social media accounts, for security purposes and stuff like that. I want this to be a safe discussion for Black males identified at birth to have a discussion about their sexual experiences and things of that nature. So please send me your request and I can send you back the Zoom mail link. And that's how we'll push forward with adding participants to the conversation. Yes? So with that covered, pushing forward. So, thus far, for our Black male sexual health course, we have discussed 2 things thus far. The first class that we had is the I am class, and that was more in tune with what do you know about yourself and what do you want to be in yourself pushing forward. This is kind of taking an inner inventory, taking into account our temperament, what we know ourselves to do, how we know ourselves to be, and just kind of getting a sense for who we are, like the soul of our being. You know what I mean? And then we push forward on day 2 to talk about the first time I. And it was more so geared towards like the first sexual experiences that you may have. However, it could also be geared towards, the first interactions with the opposite sex or the same sex, or, any type of experiences that we have that has set a certain type of, mannerism to us, Uh, and from that, we were like kind of bringing up the idea that recognizing our patterns and behaviors are kind of set from our first time, like the big bang, everything came out of this one moment of experience and everything kind of follows in line with that. So sometimes when we are interacting with people and experiences later on down the line, like later sexual experiences, we may not know that we are interacting in the same instance or similar type of patterns that we have with that very first person that we've been with. There may be some things that are inside of that experiences that we haven't I want to say uncovered, more so made amends with or accepted, in those experiences. And it's good to go back to those times in our lives to, reanalyze them, because we have different minds. We're from a different perspective now from those times. In essence, we were going into those experiences with what we knew and what we knew to do. So sometimes there wasn't enough information for us to make the correct moves, you know? So after gaining some levels of experiences and knowledge throughout our lives, we can go back to those experiences and, superimpose those ideas over that first time so that we can make a better, make better understandings of like how we were reacting or enacting in those moments so that later on down the line we can be more aware of the triggers and like the instant movements that we're making that may not be so productive in the situations that we're in. So this is like a matter of harm reduction. Yes, we're reducing the harm that we may cause from things that we did not know or was not perceiving that we were doing from the first time. Yes. So now with those first two, we're going to be moving on to where did you learn that from? And there is many ideas that I'm placing into this word of where this comes from. Yes. So pushing forward, here we have what I like to call the spheres of influence, right? And I'm taking those three classes technically, and I'm overlapping them over each other so y'all can kind of see how they kind of interplay with each other. You see how the I am is at the bottom, is the heart of what we are. I am is our perception, our inner knowing, our inner thoughts, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive what's going on. And overlapping that is the external of the internal world. So this is how we're taking that internal perception and that knowing and bringing it out to the world through our communication with others, through our day-to-day interactions with other people, through our experiences that we're, going into in our lives as we move, as we breathe, as we sense. These are the things that we're coming into contact with our inner I am. So it's I am because we are, and we are because I am. Those are very true. However, sometimes we don't tend to recognize that it is also I am because we are in. There's an environment that is housing these experiences and the communications and the way that we interact with each other all the time. It's the air we breathe. It's the water, but the fish doesn't know they're in water. It's just like natural to be within the water. Just like, some individuals don't know there's racism in America because it's just in the air that we breathe, right? It's the environment that we're in. It makes it so transparent, right? And this is the area of which are things that I want to say are outside of our control, but things that we're not so apparent about. Again, like the air, we're not so apparent about it, but it's in us all the time. That's the environment. That's generational trauma, healing, the ancestry line of things that are just innate to our being, the living conditions of which we are. Are we in a hot climate or a cold climate? Are we surrounded by trees? Are we next to the beach? All of these have an influence on how we interact with the world. The traditions that we grow up with, are we Christian? Are we Muslim? Like even if we don't naturally like, follow those religions, if we grew up in a household that practiced those religions, some of those mannerisms will still be within our being, right? And then there's the trained behaviors that we learn from school, that we learn from our skills training. Say if we learned an instrument, if we learn how to dance, or if we, for if our parents taught us how to build houses or whatever, masonry, all of these are learned skills. This is not something that we're born with. We're trained to do these things. So all of these are in the spheres of because we are in. And it kind of houses the way we speak, houses the way that we interact with each other, and sometimes curtails the way or who we tend to interact with and communicate with, and how we tend to perceive ourselves, right? All of these spheres are working in tandem with each other, you know? And they all influence each other in their own way, depending on, how much, uh, how much, I would say, how much awareness we have of their influence on our lives. Yes? So, with this sphere of influence, we're going to take this idea, we're going to bring it over to some skill sets that we tend to learn or that we know are readily learnable type of skills, right? So take the let's say, take the dancer for instance. There are some individuals who have this natural instinct to dance. They just kind of came out the womb 3 years old. They're standing on their toes. They're doing pirouettes or whatever. It's like, you know what, you got it. So some people are like naturally gifted to this art of dance, right? And there are some individuals who are experienced dancers. They tend to go to the club a lot, or they dancing amongst their friends. And they pick up on their dancing abilities through their interactions around in the environment that they're in. They're experienced dancers. And then there are individuals who go to school for dancing. They're trained to dance. Like, they go to the school of, they go to New York University or Juilliard School. They go to these individual schools and they hone their abilities through trained teachers, through worlds of knowledge that they have available to them to hone their skills in the art of dancing. You know, all three of these spheres exist for the world of dancing, as they exist for the world of music, as they exist for the world of fighting, as they exist for the world of education or geniuses. You know, some some children are just born geniuses. Some are self-taught geniuses, and some go to school to hone their genius mentalities, right? All of these are true in these fields of understanding or fields of skills. However, are these fields the same for our sexual powers, the way we understand ourselves sexually, the way we interact with other people sexually, right? You know, I would say in some respects, just as a thought, some people tend to think, some, not all, some tend to think that, sexual ability, or those who, got the gift, if you will, or whatever it is, it's kind of a natural thing that we're just born with it. They were just born to create these satisfying sexual experiences, right? Right. It happens. The first time they got it, boom, didn't have to think about it, right? There are those who are experienced sexually. They whatever situation they brought themselves in, or however they were brought up into this world, they had many different partners and sexual experiences. So through the plethora of sexual experiences that they've had, they honed their ability to be or have sexual skills to do XYZ of satisfaction. You know. Now, nowadays, we're starting to see a world of education, of higher learning for the ideas of sexual education. They do have, sex ed in schools. However, I feel it's, very general in the sense that it more or less just kind of tells you a little bit about, the anatomy of the sexual organs in the area around the body, and tell you about some STDs that you may catch, tell you about how to, safely guard yourself from while having sexual experiences. And that's about the heart of it. They're just now getting into these ideas of studying sex thoroughly in the West. In the West, let me say that. To really starting to find out what it really means and how these interactive things happen physically. Um, However, I don't know of many institutions or places or training grounds that you have to be trained to hone your sexual ability, or to, like, if there's a perceived goal that you have for your sexual prowess, to reach that goal through some type of practice of sexual, a regular practice of, we say, like lifting weights of sexual origins. I don't know exactly how to say this correctly because there's like really not a language for it, but it doesn't seem to be a means to train, right? So how does this happen? Is it just the gift? Is it just through experience that we can, change, make change to the way that we are within the sexual world, or to enhance ourselves, or to control ourselves, or to have a better means of ourselves. I mean, to give you an example, like if if you have a kid, right, and they're getting beat up at school, he's like, you know what, son or daughter, or son, daughter, or Child, I, I want you to know how to defend yourself, right? I want you to know how to take care of yourself. I don't want you to, constantly get beat up by these bullies and stuff like that. So I'm going to take you to a martial arts gym, and they train them so that they understand how to use their body so that they can defend themselves, right? There's a situation that's afoot, and you are being taught how to, protect yourself through this means, through this school, through this means of learning how to protect yourself, right? And you can do that just without anything else. If it's like, wow, that child looks like they can dance really well, I'm going to put them in the schools, put them in the ballet so that they can hone those skills, right? However, there nothing exists for the person that, maybe they wanted to, talk to a certain type of person, or they had affections for this individual and they didn't know how to speak to them, or they didn't know how to communicate with them in order to like create that type of relationship that they were looking for, you know or they were in a relationship and the relationship ended due to the fact that they could not please that individual the way that they were expecting, right? Like, where is the school and the training at to help that individual, right? It's an issue, and there's educational places for everything else in the world. However, there's no educational places for those who want to learn how to develop their sexual ability, you know? There could also be, when you really think about it, what about the other child who tends to, and the parents understand that their child is abusing individuals sexually, right? What about that? They may have too much sexual energy floating around and they don't know what to do with it. They're just all over the place. It's the same thing for the bully. Maybe, the bully just got too much energy. They're just like throwing hands at people. They just want to release their energy. So they put them in some type of training to calm them down. Maybe there's a training that you can do to calm the other kid who's sexually abusing individuals down, right? This can go both ways. This can go both ways. It's a means to hone the body. And that's what I'm theorizing about. Maybe there is a way that we can train people to understand what their sexual ability is so that they know how to use it properly, correctly, so that there is least harm done in the sexual experience, right? That's where I'm getting at. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. However, we don't know unless we try. One. And two, there's a plethora of ways to gain other skills. I don't see why, the sexual organ is an organ of the body that can be trained. It's an external piece or an internal piece, It can be trained too. And I like to think that that's true. And I like to find ways so that we can, again, reduce the harm that we're creating in this world. I tend to think that there is a lot of harm being done in this world due to us not understanding what our sexual abilities are. It's too vague. We don't quite understand what's going on down there, and we should. It's a part of our body, just like everything else is, right? So we need to create some type of atmosphere so that we can know how to better ourselves within this field of study, right? And I'm starting this with Black males because we need to learn. You're going to learn today. You got that? Anyway, so moving forward, this is the third practice I'd like y'all to work on as we get ready for class number 3 on Thursday. This is from 2 to 3 p.m. on Zoom. That's Pacific Standard Time, right? So I want you to think about, where did you learn that from? Take about a good 5 minutes to get into yourself on a good meditation. Take about 5 to 15 minutes to just kind of jot down some ideas. And here's a couple of journaling prompts that you can look into to kind of guide your thoughts. Excuse me, I'm about to burp. Okay. Yeah. So who was the first person I asked about sex? Who was the first people that, I made, I made a request to understand some information. Um, what did social media, commercials, or just the world of TV tell me about sex? What did it tell me about the sexual experiences? What was good? What was bad about sex from TV shows and movies and things of that nature? Uh, how did my parents introduce me to sex? Did they just hand me a pack of condoms and said, go for it? Or it's like, you will never have sex in this house? Or, like, was it restriction or was it an invitation? How was that done to you within your parents? Do you think sex is a natural behavior or a learned behavior? Or is it a little bit of both? Can you learn something or can you practice the sexual experience on your own, without harming anybody else in the participation of or like the practice of your sexual growth? Is it possible? I don't know. Just run the ideas of these things. What are ways that you think that you train or educated yourself sexually? You know, you know. Again, a lot of people have thought about these things. They learn how to kiss on their hand, or they learn how to do other things by eating certain fruits, or like licking the frosting off of those little twirl things. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like these are actual practices. These are practices that are, they're more independent or taught. I want to say secretly, but it's like amongst people, but there's no school of thought for it. And I just want to get y'all primed and start to think about what are some ways that you were training yourself in the past to, learn how to participate in the world of the sexual experience, the physical sexual experience, right? So these are just some things that you can think about. Just again, prime the pump. Yeah. So, and I just want to relay to y'all, if y'all happen to want to join the group and have these discussions, and anyone that sends emails to me and stuff like that, I want y'all to know that my practice for this class and this education that we're going to be administering is consentful, and these are the consents that I give to you if you want to come into these classes, and that is, I will be present. I'll validate your experiences. I will be observant and a witness to your thoughts, feelings, and understandings. I will identify, recommend ideas, what that sounds like, what that reminds me of. I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe. I do not diagnose. That's not my worldview, and that's not how I believe things need to be done. That's me, right? Um, and I practice confidentiality. What you say to me, what is said in the group, stays in the group and disappears just as much as it needs to be. And that's how we work it out. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to develop a space so that we can be open and honest with the way we have been, so that we can define where we are in our lives, uh, define the things that we have caused harm to people, how we have, possibly harmed ourselves, and reduce that harm step by step. You know, it's not going to be something that happens overnight. We know that this is a constant practice of work to reduce the harm that we're doing in this world. And we need to continue to start now. We start to understand where we are now, and we start to reduce the harm that we have caused day by day, right? So this is the mentality that I am looking to create within the sexual health class, and I hope that y'all appreciate how I'm putting this together. Yeah. So with that, I like to relate to y'all the next days, or the rest of the class schedule that we have for y'all. The next one that's coming up is day 3, October 15th. That's Thursday, 2 to 3 on Zoom. Hit me up, send me an email link, coreyjh.cmt@gmail.com. Hit me up so I can let y'all into the class, give y'all the Zoom link. We got the next class coming up on the 29th of October on Thursday, and that's the consent class, where we'll be setting our boundaries for what we know about ourselves, how we interact with each other, and what we have learned in our world sphere. And we're again setting the boundaries around those things so that we understand how we interact in those worlds, and how we want to move forward. so that if we know what our boundaries are, if we know what our constitution is, how we're running our business of ourselves and our bodies and our creation and the value, our worth that we bring to the world, it's very easy for us to say yes, and it's very easy for us to say no. It's very easy for us to accept the yes from someone else, and it's very easy for us to accept the no from somebody else, right? If we knew what our constitution was, if we knew what our boundaries are, if we knew the things that we said, it makes it a lot easier. It's not a reactionary experience, you know what I'm saying? If we already written out our constitution and we know how the world works within ourselves. So that will be the 29th of October. That'll be the class we'll be going through. But on the 15th, we will be talking about where did you learn that from? As we're setting the foundation of the environment that we learn our sexual experiences in. Yes? So that is the end of our slides. I'd like to thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for tuning in. If y'all are catching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends if they're interested. Catching this on Instagram, please, hit the like button and share with your friends. Facebook, you can do the same thing. You know what I mean? Just help a brother out. I'm trying to get the word out that, we need to create spaces for Black males to heal ourselves. And I want to be an ambassador to that idea that we can heal ourselves one day at a time through reducing the harm that we cause to other people's and ourselves, right? So I'd like to thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for tuning in. Ashe, Yede, and I'll catch y'all next time. Yeah.